Hello, James Bond Radio listeners, and welcome to the Pull the Name Out of the Hat draw for our 4th anniversary Fancast episode 5. And we have one more name to go, just the one, okay? Who's feeling lucky? Who's feeling lucky out there? Right, here we go. Come on, one name, one more name. Do you think you're going to get it? Okay, here we go. One more name, final name. Oh, let's have a look. The final name to enter the James Bond Radio Fancast episode is Mr. James Crawford-Clark from Yeovil. So there we go, James Crawford-Clark. You are name number 6.
Hi, this is Roger Moore, and you're listening to James Bond Radio.
Hello, and welcome to episode number 131 of James Bond Radio. Anyway, moving swiftly on, it is time for the third interview of the day, Chris. So you could say this is the Roger Moore of the 4th birthday fancast, the third entry, the third actor, the third 007. And who have we got?
Today, for the third interview we have, is Mr. James Crawford-Clark.
Now, I must warn you, if you're not watching the YouTube version of this, I feel like you need to pause it if you're listening to the audio and have a little quick look at the video version, because I think you'll be pleased. I think that's all I'm going to say. All right, here we go. Let's talk to Mr. James Crawford-Clark.
Hi, James. How are you doing?
How are you doing, Tom and Chris? Yeah, I'm doing good, thanks.
It's good to have you on the show, man. You're a name we've seen floating around our social media for quite a long time now, so it's good to put a face to the name.
I know. I've been meaning to sort of get in touch with you guys and sort of leave you quotes and things. I've kind of tried to do it in the past, but I've never really sort of got round to do it, so I will make it my mission.
Well, we're throwing you in at the deep end today, man. It's not quite, it's a full-on interview.
I know.
We've just got to mention to everyone that's listening that's not watching that we are utterly impressed with not only is James wearing his brilliant dinner jacket with bow tie, but you've also got like a James Bond room there. Can you tell us a bit about that, James?
Right. Well, I've got various posters and things behind me. I've got one from Spectre, obviously. I've got like a big sort of canvas print of the classic For Your Eyes Only one, Roger Through the Lady's Legs,
Very
which
nice.
is always a good one. I've got Skyfall one behind me as well, and I've got a few different sort of like signed ones, you know, the sort of ones that you can get online that everybody thinks, oh, it's got all the Bond signatures on, it's going to be worth loads, but actually it's not really. But it's just sort of nice to have it in the collection, really. So I've got quite a mix of different things in here. It's my film room.
Mate, I'm impressed. My first question of the day is: did you go all out with the dicky bow and the dinner jacket? Do you have the full suit on, or is the bottom half of you just in your jogging bottoms and you've done the top half?
Well, actually, I do have trousers on. I don't want to go down too far. I do have the trousers on. I've got socks, trousers. I do have the lot, actually.
Wow.
The only thing that I'm missing is a martini.
There you go.
That's dedication right there, isn't it, Tom?
I'm very impressed, man. I'm very impressed. Good stuff. Good to see you going to all that effort. Okay, then, dude. So to kick things off, then we're going to get to know you as a Bond fan with the 007 quickfire questions. So, question number 1 then is, Mr. James Crawford-Clark, what is your favourite Bond film?
Now, everybody's always says it changes on different days, and it does for me as well. Being a Bond fan, you know, you've got 24 official ones to choose from and a couple of unofficials. Not that I don't think anybody's chosen an unofficial one as their favourite yet, but I think for me it depends on what mood I'm in. If I'm in the mood for like a really serious sort of spy thriller, then I'd go immediately to either From Russia with Love or Majesties. Nice. Otherwise, I'd actually go for License to Kill. If I want an entertaining film that I can sit and enjoy, then I'd go for License to Kill. I'd go for the really gritty ones.
Interesting. That's usually my next follow-up question then, is depending on what the reply of the film is like, so you must be a fan of the gritty Bond, or you must be a fan of the light-hearted one. So, all right.
I do. I love all of the Bonds, to be honest. But there's some obviously that I sort of gravitate to more than others. I mean, I love what Roger did, obviously, with the series, and I do love that sort of campier style as well. If I'm in the mood for it, I'll go straight to Spy or go to Live and Let Die or something. But my favourites I think are From Russia with Love and License to Kill.
Okay, so this is where it gets tricky. You're stranded on a desert island, perhaps
Yeah.
Scaramanga's desert island, perhaps another
Okay.
one. There happens to be a working Blu-ray player and TV, yet you can only take one Bond film with you, and now you are going to be there for 2 years, James.
Oh my
Okay, so
God.
2 years, and you're only allowed to take one Bond film.
You're a hard ass, Chris. Right? Putting
I
him through a
know.
question like that.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I think it would have to be one that's gonna entertain me more than one that's kind of that I'm watching just because I want a gritty one. But I guess for entertainment, I'm going to throw another one into the mix because obviously there's loads of love for Casino Royale. I think something like Casino Royale would be a good one to have on a desert island because there's so much to enjoy with that, and not just on the grittier side, but also on the lighter side as well. There are some sort of elements of it that are, they're entertaining as well on the more lighter side. I think like Daniel Craig in particular gets the approach just right in his debut, which is brilliant, I think. So, I don't know, Casino Royale, or I'd probably go back to License to Kill again, actually, because I don't know, I just love the sort of, I don't know, it's a real summery feel to it, I think, with the locations and just like being, Florida and everything. It's, I think I'd probably go for License to Kill, actually.
Nice. There we go.
Interesting.
Excellent. Brilliant answer.
I think you hold the record for mentioning the most Bond films in answering that one question, which is the one film.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the case for most of these quick fire questions. Yeah.
Very nice. Good stuff.
Okay, so on to question 2 then, James. What is your favourite James Bond book? Now, this could be Fleming, it could be a continuation novel, it could even be a book about a certain aspect. But if you had to choose one, what would be your favourite Bond book?
Well, I do like a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff. So I've got a lot of the sort of like the James Bond archives I picked up, which is real hefty book for anyone who hasn't tried to get through it. So I do like those sort of behind-the-scenes ones. Of the Fleming ones, I've got to admit I haven't actually read all of them yet, but I've read the majority, and I think the one that really stood out for me was Live and Let Die. I think it's because of how interesting the characters were. I think I really sort of gravitated towards the way that Fleming wrote Solitaire in the book as well. I think I just liked, again, it's kind of going back to License to Kill, because there's the elements that they put into the License to Kill film that have come straight from Live and Let Die book. So I think Live and Let Die was probably my favourite of the Fleming books.
Nice.
Good
You're not the only person who's said that one actually in today's birthday episode. So
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, good stuff. Yeah, that's cool. I think it's just a real classic old school adventure, that one, isn't it? It's kind of
definitely.
It takes you on a journey with the island and the gold coins and all that stuff, doesn't it? It's a good fun
I'm
adventure.
just when I read a book, when I read a good book, I like to, if I know that it's good, when I can actually sort of almost picture myself as Bond, like sort of going on the adventure. So it's
is that what you do?
That's
because that's an interesting talking point. Because a lot of people say when you read the Flemings or read Bond, who do you picture? And some people say, well, I always have Connery in my head or whatever, or depending on what book it was and who was in the film of that book or whatever, that's who they picture. And for me, I have it's none of the actors. I picture a dude. I can't possibly describe what he looks like or whatever, but there's that guy I always picture when I read the books. But you actually picture yourself as Bond when you read the books. That's cool. I'm going to try that, man. That's cool.
That just sounds like I'm really blowing my own trumpet. But it's, well, I think if I sort of rephrase it, it's more kind of like, if I can sort of visualize what's going on and I really feel like I'm getting into the story and getting into the locations, I think that's when I really, really enjoy reading something. So Live and Let Die really grabbed me for that reason. But I do kind of agree with you, Tom. When I'm sort of reading the books, I tend to sort of, I don't think I picture any of the actors. I pictured very tall guy, dark hair, very sort of closely cropped dark hair, and almost kind of just faceless, very plain sort of features.
That's what I mean.
I don't really know if it's anybody.
Yeah, I couldn't really describe what he looks like. Yeah, I know what you mean by a bit faceless. You can't sort of almost see him that directly. It's almost like when you see in GoldenEye in the pre-title sequence where you don't see his face for a little while. It's almost like that through the books, I think, for me.
Totally. Totally.
Absolutely.
Although next time I read a Bond book, I am going to try and project myself onto it.
Well, it's always a good idea. Always a good idea.
We'll do that, and it'll be James when we read it as well.
Okay. All right, well, I don't mind.
Cool stuff. Next question then. Who is your favourite Bond actor?
Right, so I think, really, if I'm being completely honest, it's Timothy Dalton. And it's not just because I've talked about License to Kill, but I just think when I sort of go back to the books and I compare the books with the films, I honestly feel like he's the closest to what we should get out of the Bond character. I know there's sort of elements that are perhaps missing, like a bit more sense of humour and sort of, I don't know, just like the ladies' man that I know Tom's mentioned a lot before. Like Tim's not really the ladies' man, but I think with the direction that the films were going in, sort of coming after Roger was always going to be tricky because it's one of those sort of turning points in Bond where obviously the producers were thinking, where do we go? If we keep going with Roger, it's probably going to go down a more and more sort of slapstick route. But by casting Tim, I think, it was a game changer, I think, sort of at that time. And I love both of his films. I think... I think he is the best. Obviously, Sean is unbeatable, really, but for me, Timmy's the best one.
It would have been interesting had he gotten to do his third, and just to see, obviously, if he'd done his third, would he have done a fourth? And there are all these what ifs, but I think, I think the Bond 17 with Tim would have been an interesting one had it obviously happened.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, I love everything that's come before him, really, and I love, Pierce. You can't really replace Pierce in GoldenEye. As much as I would love to see what Tim's approach would have been if he'd stayed on, you can't really replace anybody previously or since, because I think everyone's, they're all brilliant in everything that they've done, really. So I just think Tim sort of stands out for me.
Yeah, I think it's like we often say in it, Chris. It's like they all belong to their own era, don't they? It's like if you took Sean out of the '60s and stuck him in Roger's era or stuck him in the '80s, it just wouldn't be right, would it? Obviously, they would be a lot older in those times, but like in their prime, if you stuck them in those, it just doesn't seem like it would feel right. And I think they all own their own particular corner, don't they? That you can't sort of cross those boundaries, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be fascinating to see. It would be interesting to see, like Roger's version of, I don't know,
Majesty's.
I don't think that would work at all, but, for example.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so on to the next question. Now, this one is always an interesting one, James.
Yeah.
Question number 4 is, who is your favourite Bond girl? Now, like we say, you are allowed to have 2 if you want. One Bond girl based on character, one on the one that really gets you hot under the collar. They could be the same one, but what would you say is your favourite Bond girl?
Oh God, so many to choose from, and they're just so many of them are so good as well. I mean, I guess for strength of character, for me, I know everybody says Tracy, and I mean Diana Rigg is amazing as Tracy. Obviously, it's such a well written and rounded character. But I think Ava Green Vesper is for me the one that I sort of gravitate towards. She's the strongest one for me, I think, because she creates such a mold on Bond and who he will become. So I think the events of Casino Royale are really, really important for the character, and I think Vesper is, because she's such an enigma as well, isn't she? I mean, Ava Green said that in interviews and things before the film, while the film was coming out. She's sort of saying it's such an interesting character to play because she's so enigmatic and you never really know quite where her allegiance lies. So for character, I think definitely Vesper. I do love the Thunderball ladies. I love Domino. I love Fiona. I know Chris is a fan of Fiona. I just think, Claudine Auger, isn't it, and Luciana Paluzzi, they're both stunning women.
Yeah,
stunning. So probably one of the Thunderball ladies for that part of the question.
It is a difficult one, isn't it? It is a difficult choice to make. Yeah, that is a challenge.
I agree, though. If the question was, what is your favourite film, Bond film relating to Bond girls within a film, it'd be very hard to beat Thunderball, because you've got Patricia Fearing as well, and she's obviously looking good. You've got Paula Kaplan, and I think
you've got Paula as well.
Thunderball's right up there for the Bond girls, definitely. Yeah. Good choice.
Goodness gracious me. We need to move on swiftly to the next question then before it gets out of hand.
Yeah, I know. I'm just getting a bit hot.
Cool stuff then. Next question is, if you can possibly narrow it down to one, what is your favourite scene in the whole series?
I've been trying to think about this one, because I'm thinking, do I go for something that is really classic and really memorable and sort of sums up the series, or do I go for just like a personal highlight when I'm watching the film? So I think if I'm going for like a really classic, I'd go for just the Union Jack parachute and pre-titles of Spy. Nice. It's amazing, really. It just totally sums up, just the Britishness of Bond. I just think that's fantastic. I think for a favorite scene, I'm actually going to go back to a couple of Timmy moments, actually. The bit I really love is the interrogation of Pushkin in Living Daylights. I think that scene is amazing, and that's one I always go to. I just sort of watch it and think, that's Bond. That's Fleming's Bond on the screen.
Yeah, that's an interesting one now, actually, because that is proper Cold War intrigue thriller, that, isn't it? And especially when you see, because you don't see like the kind of the nasty Fleming Bond on the screen all that often, and the way he
no, you don't,
tears her sleeve off and stuff, and she's standing there, you get a little bit of side boob, which is nice, and then you get that whole thing where he's ready to literally like drill him in the head right in front of her and all that kind of stuff, and it's like, damn man, that's the tension in that scene is palpable, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. I mean, the other one for me that kind of, I'm going to go to License to Kill for one that's really close to that for me. It's actually the look on Timmy's face when he realises that Sanchez is dead. Just the look of relief on his face when he's sort of like up against, sort of led back against the rock, and just thinking, "Oh my God, that was worth it."
Yeah.
Again, that's a real sort of Fleming moment, I think, that works really well on screen.
And he'd been so close to death, hadn't he? Just that little moment, and brilliant. Two great scenes.
That's an amazing scene as well. I mean, just like the stunt work, obviously, like listen to your last podcast, I think.
Paul Weston,
with Paul Weston. That was amazing hearing those stories. Really, really interesting. Playing Sanchez and everything, and just literally like holding his breath there, like waiting for the cameras to roll. I couldn't be a stuntman.
I think that episode has spawned a new game which is called Spot Paul Weston whenever you watch the Bond film. To see if we can find where he is. He's always in there somewhere.
It's great stuff. Okay, so on to question 6 then, James. If you had to pick one, what would be your favourite Bond theme song?
The ones that I really like are Live and Let Die, because of just how different it is, I think. But I think my favourite is Nobody Does It Better, Carly Simon. I just think, for me, that really sort of, even in the lyrics, it just sort of sums up Bond, really. I just think musically it's a great track, and I just think probably Nobody Does It Better is my favourite.
It's a good one. It's hard to argue with that, isn't it, really? Just because I think it, in terms of the lyrics, like you say, it just describes Bond perfectly, above any of the other theme songs. He is the best. Nobody can do it better than Bond, and it's written so well for the character that they're intrinsically linked, aren't they? That song and Bond.
I think so.
You know what?
I mean, I love.
Sorry, go on. After you.
I was just going to say, obviously, just as sort of like an aside to that, I go back to Majesties as well. I just love. I'm a huge fan of Louis Armstrong, and We Have All the Time in the World is a stunning song.
That is a beauty, isn't it? Yeah, that you've mentioned some corkers there. I think going back to Nobody Does It Better, there's several things about that. Number one, obviously, it's one of those crossover Bond songs, isn't it? That it's a massive Bond hit, but it also, you hear it on the radio all the time. It's almost like a standalone song that surpassed Bond, isn't it? Number two, I think that's almost a long lost Bond title. I feel like you could have had a Bond film called Nobody Does It Better. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
I feel like you could have had that back in the Roger period or something. But third, I think it's all the more powerful now because now Roger's gone. I feel like every time I hear that, there's an extra emotional layer to it, and I don't feel like it's a Bond song anymore. I feel like that is Roger's theme tune. I feel like he owns that.
Oh, totally, totally, yeah. Totally.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Sorry, just one extra thing I wanted to add to that. I know these are quick fire questions. I'm spending like 10 minutes on each one. I've just got a bit of a story with that I think is the reason why I love Nobody Does It Better. My wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, she decided she was going to get me a birthday present the first year we sort of started seeing each other, and she obviously knew from the outset that I was mad on James Bond. So she got tickets to Somerset House in London, so we went to the outdoor screening, and it was The Spy Who Loved Me that summer. So the atmosphere there when diving off and the parachute opens and then the thing just kicks in, there was just applause, complete applause. You could hear a pin drop with that parachute. It was amazing.
Beautiful.
A couple of very quick questions, actually. Firstly, I think it's brilliant. So when you first met your girlfriend at the time,
I was going to ask this.
How soon was it before you mentioned about James Bond? And secondly, when you got married, did you play any Bond songs at your wedding?
Right, well, I'll get on to the marriage bit in a minute because that's another story. And that is Bond related as well. So the first part, probably on the very first day that we met up in London, I must have brought James Bond into the conversation somewhere. The very first day we met, I reckon I just... Because I know we were talking a lot about films, various different films that we like. She's really into films as well, so we've got that in common, which is good. But I must have brought up James Bond on that first day, and it was.
Were you wearing your dinner jacket at the time with the?
No, that's only for you guys.
Oh, thanks.
It's funny, isn't it? When it courses through your veins like it does with us lot. Yeah. It's such a huge part of your life, and you can't not mention it. I remember when I went on the first date with my missus, I was just like, listen, if this ever goes anywhere, I've got to just warn you now, because there's some baggage that comes with me, and I had to explain. And luckily enough, she, big movie fan as well, so she was bang into it. But yeah, it is. You almost can't. I feel like that's almost like how you need to introduce yourself when you meet a potential partner in life. It's like, look, this is what happens when you're with me. Either you're on board now, or we might as well just cut a loss now and go our separate ways. Because
by the way, I'm a James Bond freak.
Did you sort of do it so you met up, but you didn't let her see your face for ages? So you walk away, and then suddenly you turn to look at her like a Bond reveal.
Well, no, actually, she's gonna hate me for revealing so much. Actually, but when she watches this back, she's gonna hate me for it. But we kind of decided to meet up in London about a week beforehand, and it obviously got to the day when we were meeting up. And because she lived closer to London at the time than I did, so I obviously got the train there, and we decided to sort of meet under the clock at Waterloo. It's a very romantic kind of setting, and I was sort of stood there for 10 minutes thinking, oh my God, is she actually going to turn up or not? So as me kind of like really awkwardly looking around thinking, oh God, is she actually going to turn up? And she did, luckily. But so yeah, here we are, 7 years later now.
I thought you were going to say that if the meeting place was under the clock at Waterloo, you'd have a little red carnation in the jacket, and that's how she would.
If only I'd thought of that. I think that might have scared her off a bit, though, to be honest.
A little bit strong for a first date, I think, that one.
Yeah, just a little bit.
You need to tell us the wedding story. In my mind, you and the best man are parachuting into the wedding. Is that where it went?
It's not quite as cool as that, although I've got a story about the best man actually as well, but I'll come to that in a bit. For the wedding, my wife agreed with me that we would have all of the tables, including our head table, as James Bond film title names.
Nice.
You have got
Very
yourself
nice.
a keeper there, my friend. Nice one.
Oh well, I'm sure she'll love you for saying that. So yeah, no, I have totally. So I'm trying to remember what one we were actually. It was obviously going to be one of my favourites. We were probably from Russia with Love, I reckon. So let me see if I can show this to you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are like the sort of cards that we had on the table. So there's one for
Nice.
Casino Royale. Those were made by my wife's aunt, actually. So
nice.
she's we had those all over the table. We had, it was a real sort of Bond themed wedding. So it was cool.
That's wicked,
Brilliant.
man. That's cool.
That's
and
incredible.
kudos to the missus, to Mrs. Crawford-Clark, for allowing that kind of behaviour at the wedding. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
So going on to the next question then, James.
Yeah,
Now this is we're going to go right back to the start. Can you remember what your earliest memory of Bond was, whether it's on the screen or in the theatre or what?
Yeah, I can actually. The very first thing I remember sitting down. I would have only been about 11 or 12, I think. It's really weird. I'm really weird at sort of remembering sort of key dates and things. So it was June, and it was 1999. So I would have been 12. And ITV, the network in UK TV, had they were starting their Bond season, and I was at that impressionable sort of age. I'd never seen a Bond film, so I thought, right, let's go and watch them from the very beginning. And I just remember knowing the title of the first one, and that was it, just knowing that it was called Dr. No. And I looked at my dad and said, that's a really strange name for a film, Dr. No. And he said, oh, just stick with it and you'll love it. And yeah, it just sort of started from there, really. Just went from there, and they sort of showed them on a weekly basis, and I was sort of hooked from the beginning, really.
Interesting. So was it the kind of thing where you, like you say, you were hooked from the beginning, immediately you knew you were an obsessive fan from there on in, or is that something that you grew into a little bit?
The obsessive fan I definitely grew into, but I'm kind of one of those that I like. It's really sad. I like making lists of things. I like watching things. I like watching the behind the scenes stuff on the DVDs. I'd constantly make notes. I'd look back and think, oh yeah, this happened in this film, and this happened here. I'm kind of a Bond anorak, really, but I'm quite proud to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Fly that flag high.
That's why we're all
friend.
here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So how old were you then? Did you say when you first went to?
Well, I would have been almost 12.
Because that's reasonably late compared to some people in terms of getting into it.
No, totally.
Was your dad into a Bond fan as well, or not so much? Or?
I think he'd seen quite a lot of them, obviously, when they were originally out and that. But I think obviously my dad was more interested than my mum at the time. But I remember it was like Wednesday nights, I think, on ITV. So it was like every week we'd sort of sit down and watch it. And I think there were ones that stood out more than others, like Goldfinger in particular. I remember seeing that and just thinking, wow, like this is amazing. These are the kind of films that I want to watch now. And I remember The World Is Not Enough, because that came out at the end of '99. So that was the first year that I got into Bond, and that was the first one I saw in the cinema as well.
Nice.
So, yeah.
There's something about Goldfinger that captures the imagination across the board. I remember my cousin had two twin boys, and when they must have been like 6 or 7 at the time. And I just got the Bond Blu-ray 50th anniversary set, and I had my old DVD box set that I had, and I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pass it on to my cousin's kids and, like, get that seat in there. So when they came to visit, I brought it out and I was like, here you go, boys, open that up. And they opened it up, and there's all the things. And the first thing they went was, oh, Goldfinger. And it was like, that was the one they homed in on. And it was like, oh, that's interesting.
Well, I think it's so ingrained. Yeah. It's so ingrained in your consciousness, isn't it? Now, I mean, whether you're a huge like Bond nut like the three of us, or just like a casual fan, everybody knows what Goldfinger is. Whether you've seen loads of the films or just one or two, everybody has heard of Goldfinger.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's iconic, really, in Bond.
100%.
Definitely.
You got it.
Yeah.
So, next question then. What is the Bond location you would like to visit more than any other?
Well, there's so many that I'd love to visit. I'd love to. I'm really jealous of Tom. You've been to the Bahamas, haven't you? I don't know. Chris, you may have done as well. I'm not sure, but I'd love to go to the Bahamas, just because it just looks beautiful. So that's one that's definitely high up on my list.
And is that
I'd like to go
for any particular film? Is that more Casino Royale, or is that Thunderball, or is there one particular film that kind of inspires that in you?
I think probably Thunderball of the two, because I think you get to see a fair amount more of it, really, I would say, in Thunderball than you do in Casino, and you see like the more like exotic side of it in Thunderball. So I think that's what kind of draws me to the Bahamas. But I mean, there's so many. I'd love to go to Jamaica. I'd love to go to Japan. Is really top on my list as well. I'd love to go to Japan. But then also Peace Gloria, everybody says it, but I mean, it's just, I would just love to go. I'd love to think that I could go next year for the 50th anniversary. We've got I think we've got a family holiday possibly planned for next year, so it might have to be put on hold for a bit, but it's definitely top of my list as well.
Yeah, that's the one, isn't it? Yeah, I tell you what, though, I think Jamaica has to be high on everybody's list, because there's the double whammy with that, isn't it? Obviously, you got Dr. No and that, but that's where it was all born. You know what I mean? That's like if you were lucky enough to visit GoldenEye and sit at that desk where it all started, at that very desk that's still there, I think there's going to be some real magic in the air in that place for sure.
Oh, totally, yeah. Just kind of going on to locations as well. I know Tom's been to Thailand, to James Bond Island. I went there with my missus as well. Actually, we went on our honeymoon to Thailand, so it was a Bond-themed wedding and a Bond-themed honeymoon as well. So yeah, she really is a keeper.
Nice. Did you do the back-to-back duel on the beach?
We didn't do the back-to-back duel. To be honest, the day that we went, there were so many tourists. It was packed there. I mean, it's such a far cry from Man with the Golden Gun just being like a really isolated area and just completely undiscovered until the film. I mean, there's just stalls and things everywhere there. Yeah. I mean, it was so busy. So we were really lucky to get the pictures that we did, really. But we spent like I'd say probably a good hour there, and it was a really hot day as well. So it was lovely. It was really good. It was a really good location to go to.
I remember when I went. It's funny because with all those boat tours, that there's so many islands around there. It's typically, I don't know if yours was the same, but when I first went, that was part of a collection of islands that you would go to on the tour. You'd be on this boat for most of the day, and it was like, we're going to this island first, then this island, then James Bond Island, blah, 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 which I was only interested in the one island, obviously. But it was funny when you get off there and you see all those people like almost shoulder to shoulder milling around and stuff, and you look around and you're like, I bet most of you have no clue what this is. I bet you don't know what you're looking at.
It's just another island.
Yeah, exactly. You might have some vague memory about that mushroom-looking rock over there, but you don't know what you're doing.
Do you think there should be like a quiz questionnaire beforehand, and you're only allowed to get on the island if you can answer like these Man with the Golden Gun questions?
Yeah, I feel like we need to go there and set up a little stall and just educate everybody that passes through. But I did go back a second time actually, and the key is to go super early in the morning, because we asked some of the tour people and they were saying that all the tour boats arrive from like 9 a.m. That's when they all start to arrive. So if you can get there before that. And the second time we did, we hired a boat by ourselves, and we got there just after 7 a.m. and we literally had the whole place to ourselves, which was great. But the weather was a bit shitty that day, so that was kind of wasn't so cool. But we did have the whole place to ourselves. So to anybody listening, if you're going, that's the way to do it. Get there super early.
It's well worth going. I mean, Thailand's amazing anyway, but in particular James Bond Island, you've got to go if you go to Thailand.
Absolutely,
really cool.
Sounds good. Okay, then on to final quickfire question 009. Now this is kind of split into two, James. So the first part is, what did you think of Spectre? Was it a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or somewhere in between? And part two is, what would you like to see out of Bond 25?
Okay, this is an interesting one because I came out of Spectre feeling much the same as I did after Skyfall, thinking, yeah, definite thumbs up. Yeah, that was really good. As time's passed, I've come back to Spectre now and again, and I kind of dip in and out of it. I think, and it's kind of one of those films for me these days, where I kind of think there are parts of it that I love that are really, really good, particularly the Bond and Mr. White with the chessboard. I think is a real standout scene in the film. But then, unlike you've kind of discussed, obviously in your 30 Days of Spectre, which I'd sort of watched religiously. It was. I mean, there are problems. There are definite problems with the film, particularly in the second half. But there are some great characters in there. I love some of what they were trying to do, sort of bring it back to sort of the style of old. I thought there's one particular scene that I loved, which was as soon as the title sequence finished, and you just go straight into M's office, the classic sort of M's office of old, and I just beamed when that came on screen. I just thought, yeah, this is what I want to see. This is back to proper Bond.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's it probably lies somewhere in the middle of the sort of rankings for me at the moment. Spectre. Sort of giving it more thought.
Nicely done. Nice. So, with that said, then, what direction do you think Bond 25 should go in? Are you thinking you need to do that Blofeld story and perhaps finish that off in Bond 25, or do you think the Blofeld story is done, line drawn under it, something new for 25?
Well, firstly, I'm thinking that I really need to get round to reading You Only Live Twice, because that's one of the only Fleming books that I still haven't read yet. And obviously, with you guys talking about Shatterhand and everything, I can see them going in that direction, and I think it would be brilliant for a finale for Craig's Bond. I think it could work really well if they did that. I think they need to go all out with something. If they go for quite a modest, quieter sort of film, I don't think it's going to have the appeal that it needs, because it's quite a large gap again. Like, obviously, Spectre came out at the end of 2015. It's a 4-year gap between, with 2019, the next one. I don't know. I think they will have Blofeld in it. As for Madeleine, I don't know. When Spectre was released, I thought, oh, okay, they're going to go down the Majesty's route, and it is like a modern day Majesty's. But I'm not so sure if they are going to do that now. I wonder if Madeleine won't actually be in it at all, and they'll just kind of brush that off as just another relationship, and we see Bond, mid-mission with somebody else. I mean, like you've said before, Tom, I would love to see, I'd love to see Craig rocking out the whole with a woman in the dinghy at the end. I mean, it's like the You Only Live Twice kind of ending. I mean, that would, for me, that would be brilliant. I would love to see something like that. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'd love to see that.
It's funny, isn't it? I feel like we're at a crossroads where I don't know where they're going to take it. I would have, because with all the stuff about like the leaked script and stuff, where they were going to say we have all the time in the world at the end of the film, I'm like, okay, 100% they're going to do like what George's Diamonds Are Forever would have been, or they're going to do the Shatterhand You Only Live Twice thing in the next one. But it's going to definitely be a Blofeld showdown in the next one. But now Christoph Waltz said he's not coming back, and I'm like, fuck, what do they do then? Because he's not coming back, are they going to recast Blofeld? Part of me thinks I can't see that happening. Maybe they're going to do something different. I don't. And then the other part of me is like the whole stepbrother plotline thing was so massively unpopular. I thought if they do bring Waltz back, do they just pretend that never happened? Is it just subtly referenced or is it just completely ignored?
Yeah,
it's a tough one of how they did it, because that was almost universally hated by most people, wasn't it?
I mean, to me, that's funny, because I remember watching the film, the opening night, and thinking that didn't really bother me all that much. I can, it is a bit of a sort of flimsy way of sort of reintroducing Blofeld after so long, but it didn't really bother me all that much watching it. I just kind of thought, okay, yeah, I'll go with that. Okay, that's fine, as long as they don't play on it too much. And I don't think they did. There was a danger of them kind of being a real sort of like Bond and Blofeld, real sort of like cat and mouse sort of thing. But it's luckily they didn't go sort of down that route. So if they do bring Blofeld back, I'd be happy to see Blofeld played by somebody else. As good as Christoph Waltz is, I just don't think he nailed the performance that's needed for Blofeld, really.
I think he said the same himself, I think, in more or less those words. But I feel, as you know, we said on the show, I think it's the same thing. I feel like the whole stepbrother thing got totally blown out of proportion. I feel if they'd have made them actual relatives, blood brothers, like actual brothers, I'd have been like, no, that's absolutely too far. But it wasn't that, and I think with the backlash that got, I think was unwarranted, because it wasn't that. It was just, literally a couple of winters they spent together.
It wasn't as blatant as that.
Yeah, so I think that got blown out of proportion. But it'll be interesting to see how they handle it. But yeah, part of me, I'm totally lost as to what to expect, because I was fully sold. It's going to be Shatterhand. They're going to do that. But now I'm like, damn, I'm not. So if Waltz isn't coming back, I'm not sure where it's going.
Well, Chris, what do you think?
Well, Waltz could be smoke and mirrors. He could be saying, "I'm not coming back," and then he could rock up. I think I totally agree with you, James, in terms of if this is Daniel's last, which we think it is, and he's only got the one more, it has to be big. He has to go out on a massive bang, and I think having Blofeld in Spectre, if there was no Blofeld in the next one, it would be a shame, because that is right there. There's a major ingredient for it to be a massive Bond film. So I think Blofeld has to come back. I think I'd love Hinks to come back as well. But I think in terms of the Blofeld, whether it's Christoph or whether it's someone else, personally, I wouldn't mind Christoph coming back. I'd like to, if it was done right, if the character was written and maybe had a bit more to do. I wasn't a big fan of certain things within Spectre, but some of it I love, like the Spectre meeting scene. I thought he was amazing at it. I thought Blofeld in that scene was like terrifying. So I really can't see how they'll do Bond 25 without Blofeld. I really can't. Whether it's Christoph or someone else, I just don't think it wouldn't make sense to me to do a final Daniel Craig without Blofeld now, following on from what happened in Spectre. So I'm pretty sure he will come back in one guise or another.
I think the great thing about the series, and the reason why it's endured as long as it has, though, is like what everybody says. It's Bond moves with the time. So whatever's in the news, whatever's going on, whatever's like the top stories, that's usually something that they're going to bring into it. So obviously with Spectre it was, and in Skyfall to some extent it was about surveillance, and just the idea of people watching your every move, and just the advent of like sort of like a big brother nation sort of thing. So I mean, whatever's going to be big in the next couple of years, it's bound to find its way into Bond 25.
Yeah. Here's a question then. If Blofeld comes back and it's not Christoph Waltz, who would you like to see in the role?
Oh, God. I had a feeling you were going to ask me that. And I have no idea. I really don't have a clue at the moment.
I think it does depend on how you deal with that, in the sense that when you recast Bond, typically you go for somebody who's a bit different to the dude before, and you don't try and do the clone, you know what I mean, of whoever was before, so they get their own stamp on it. So I guess it depends how they handle it, whether they're like, okay, let's continue on with kind of what Christoph did and get somebody similar to that, or do you go, let's turn Blofeld on his head a bit and make this version of Blofeld more like a Telly Savalas or something closer to the books or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It'll be
well, as long as we don't get another Charles Gray one.
Blofeld in drag, that would definitely be a different take on it for sure from Christoph.
Yeah.
Nice,
cool stuff.
So there we are. I guess that wraps up the interview, James, but it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. It really has. It's been super entertaining, and thanks again for obviously the dinner jacket, bow tie, and the film room and everything like that.
Can I say one thing just before I go? I've got a couple of just sort of like sort of memorabilia bits in front of me. I just
Yeah,
wanted
yeah,
to
go
show
for
you
it.
guys.
Go
There's
for
a few things that I've kind of mentioned before. I think I've put it up on like the Facebook page, like pictures of things before. But obviously, sort of going back in time when you were talking about my earliest memories of Bond. Bond's been with me for quite a while, even like to an academic level. That's a copy of my dissertation.
Oh, mate.
Excellent.
That I've still got. So
What-
I did my dissertation.
What was the dissertation? What was it?
Sorry, yes. So the title of the dissertation is From Connery to Craig, The Spy and the Spied, Analysing the Politics of Masculinity in James Bond and the Spy Thriller Genre.
Good Lord. And what did you get? Did you get a
that
first?
sounds good.
I didn't get a first, actually. No, overall, I got 2-1, so it was second best. But
Nice.
it was a good final year of uni, spending time watching Bond films and making notes and things. That was cool. Yeah,
Nicely done.
yeah. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, the only other thing I was going to show you guys. Two more quick things.
Go for it.
First one is my stag do for my wedding. So the wedding was very Bond related. The honeymoon was Bond related, and my best man was my brother, and he knows how obsessed I am with Bond. So we had face masks. So mine was Timmy D.
Very nice.
So we went out and sort of painted the town red.
That was wicked. I think we've just lost Chris. Oh, Chris is back.
We lost Chris. He's back.
You got.
He's back.
Did you miss
I
that,
just went on
Chris?
a quick mission.
Oh, okay.
Very nice.
The only other thing I was going to show you guys is obviously we were all sort of devastated hearing about the news of Sir Roger passing, and knowing that one of our sacred six has left us was really it's really hard to take. I'm just really chuffed that I got to go to his talk. I went to the London one literally about 6 months before he passed. So it would have been the end of 2016.
Yeah.
That was so interesting listening to his stories. He was a real raconteur, I think. So
that was
amazing.
At the South Bank, that one.
Yes, it was. Yeah,
that was his last public appearance, I think, wasn't it?
I think it was.
I think it was actually. I went with a mate of mine who, incidentally, we did a James Bond marathon once, and we literally watched all the Bond films one after the other. That's how obsessed I am with Bond. I will sit down for 40 odd hours and watch all the Bond films back to back.
How did you survive without sleep and stuff like that?
Well, I think I nodded off a couple of times, but I've done it once with a mate at uni, and I did it once on my own, which was really, really difficult because you've got no company, and you literally sat there watching the films. But it was. I would do it again. I really would. It's so good watching all of them back to back.
Did you like film yourself doing that and put it on YouTube?
I did. Yes, there are some videos.
I thought I'd seen you somewhere. I remember seeing one of your videos ages ago of you sitting there. Yeah, there it is. Oh, how
talking
funny.
about Bond.
Yeah.
There you go.
How funny. Nice
and
one,
one
dude.
parting thing I'm going to leave you with. I'm sure I've shown it to you guys before. You probably won't be able to see it very clearly. It is a signed picture from Roger. That was actually from 2010. That was signed in Monte Carlo, but it was to James for Your Eyes Only, Roger Moore.
Beautiful.
That's amazing.
A belter of an image
So
as well, man.
That's their precious piece in my collection.
Beautiful. Good stuff.
Excellent.
All right, man. Well, it was a lot of fun having you on the show today, man. It's
it's been a pleasure.
It's been good to put the face to the name, and even funnier now that I remember I saw your YouTube videos many moons ago. So that's funny.
I have to go back and write some comments.
Indeed,
on there,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We'll have to get you to some of the JBR meetups as well, James, in the UK.
Oh yeah, totally. I've been wanting to go to so many of them. I've just never got round to it. I went to the Casino Royale, obviously, at the Albert Hall, and that was amazing. But I was hoping I'd be able to see you guys there, but we actually went to the evening one instead. I know you went to the afternoon one.
Yeah.
So
that's right. Yeah.
It'll happen one day. We'll meet up at some point.
Cool. Sounds good.
Great.
All right then, buddy. We will see you soon then, hopefully.
Thanks a lot.
All right, take
All
care,
right, cheers,
James.
James. Take care.
Cheers.
Bye.
Keep up the good work. See ya.
Mate, I enjoyed that. That was, I tell you what I like about that, straight out of the gate. As soon as the old Skype thing kicked in, boom, and he popped up on the webcam. There he is in full regalia. He had his dicky bow on, full suit, trousers, the whole lot. And he had his Bond wall behind him and all that kind of stuff. I feel like there was some real sort of preparation taken there. I really appreciate the level of detail he went to.
Too right. Likewise with me. I mean, it looked great, and that's what you want to see, isn't it? The opening shot is someone dressed up to the nines in their Bond, Bond outfit.
Maybe that's a rule, man. For the 5th birthday, anyone who comes on has to choose a character and has to be in costume. And then that's just the rules of the game. If you're going to come on the show, that's what you got to do. Mate,
I like that.
I would, because it would be exciting for us as well, wouldn't it? Because you'd be like, what are we going to get this time? Up comes Baron Samedi or something. It would be amazing. Yeah, that would be cool.
Right, we'll have to do that, definitely.
Yeah, totally.
But it was good to see James as well. Like, obviously, he was saying about, it's so interesting, isn't it? When you first meet your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your partner, how early do you bring it up? And obviously, he sort of mentioned it straight away. And his missus sounded like she was into it as well, which is pretty cool.
I think you have to. I think that's the rule, because if you don't and you try and sneak it in a little bit later, like a crafty butcher, then I think you run the risk of ending up with somebody who's just not going to entertain your desires. Do you know what I mean? And if you come out straight out of the gate and the reaction is good, then you're like, okay, this one, I think there's potential here. Because at the end of the day, if you were with somebody who just hated Bond, I don't think I could do that.
That wouldn't work.
Yeah, I don't think it would.
It wouldn't work. You need to cover both audio desire as well as carnal desire.
Indeed, you do. Yeah. I don't like the way you looked at me there. Made me feel a bit uncomfortable. But anyway, moving swiftly on.
Take care. Bye.